If you're like me, you spend half your time looking for your next game rather than actually playing it. Well, today I thought it would be fun to compile a list of my all-time favorite indie game titles. The list is focused more on lesser-known games, although you may have heard of some of these on the list. I bet there's a couple that you've never heard about. This video is laid out from best to absolutely must-play in my opinion. I personally love all things indie, leaning towards puzzle, horror, and storytelling games, so if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, stick around. My name is Dave, I'm a 3D artist and variety streamer. I test out new indie game titles every Sunday live over on Twitch, so please do come hang out, and please like and subscribe to this video for more indie game content. So, without further ado, this is my list of all-time top 12 indie game titles. So let's start off with some more weird and wonderful ideas for games. So this is Storyteller. Think of it like an interactive comic. You have these little cells that tell a story, and just by moving around the little sticker type images that animate, you can tell different stories. There's lots of different things to unlock, and it's just a very fun game with lots of silly things that happen. So I highly recommend this if you're into like your storytelling with a bit of a quirk. If you're into your sort of weird indie games, I highly recommend At Dead of Night. Now, if you're like me, you grew up on a lot of like FMV games, which are full motion video games, where they've used actual actors and video content to actually build their game around a narrative. And in this game, you move into a hotel waiting for your friends, but as you move into your room, you discover that there is lots of people who have died in the hotel, and you have to talk to different ghosts and find out how they died. But at the same time, you're being chased around the place by a crazed knockoff Matt Smith lookalike who is trying to bonk you to death. I know that sounds silly, but that's literally how it is. I highly recommend this, especially if you're a Twitch streamer, because when I was playing it, people would like to play sound alerts to try and scare me. This is a really fun game. It's not like a normal sort of game. And yeah, there's a lot of jump scares and things, but I find it very much is a game that puts you on edge, and it's not very easy to complete. Also, on the same note, I'm currently playing the game that predates this, which is called Contradiction. It works in a very similar way, and you can tell that some of the game mechanics from that game is what inspired this game. I'm still playing Contradiction, so I can't give my full review just yet, so if you have not played that game, check it out. Next on the list is a game called Before Your Eyes. Now, if you've never heard of this game, I have to put a warning on this. It will make you cry. If you're in the mood to vent some emotions, this is the game for you. It's a short storytelling game. It's more of a walking sim type thing with an interesting mechanic where you can set up the game so the story progresses when you blink, which ties into the narrative and also helps with the emotional beats of the story. Highly recommend this one if you like your storytelling games and narrative-based games. I played this live on stream and we all loved it, but also at the same time people were not prepared for the level of emotion attached to it. You can also play this game in VR, so if you're into that, this might be an option for you. Next on the list is Observation Duty. Now, you may have heard of this game. It's become its own genre in the indie games field, but this was the first to do it. It's quite simple. You just look around different cameras and you watch for things that change. Almost like a spot the difference game, but it's tied in with jump scares and spooky stuff. At the time of recording, there is about 8, maybe even 9 different versions of the game, including a VR version. I have played every single one and I love every single one of them. They all bring something different and they all tend to use slightly different ways to report anomalies. The anomalies themselves can range from something so subtle like a water bottle moving or a cup changing color to literally have a very questionable person doing very questionable things in every single room, or messing with cameras or ghosts or just funny things. If you're into just something slightly weird, again, it's very good for if you're a streamer, because then everyone can get involved and help you try and find the anomalies and spot the difference. Personally, I think the later versions were probably the better ones. So I think from memory, number 5 is probably my favorite, but anything above that, it really starts to hone in on what the game is And if you do like observation duty style games, like I say, it becomes its own genre, and there are many other spin-off titles based around this concept. So the next game is Wonder Boy. It's actually called Wonder Boy The Dragon's Trap, but I know it as Wonder Boy 3 back from the Sega Master System. I played the original and absolutely loved it, and this game is actually still is the original. You press a button and it changes from the old style graphics to the new graphics and vice versa, showing you that the gameplay is actually identical to what it used to be. And it just shows that with a new lick of paint and some new audio, a game can feel brand new. The game itself is actually quite difficult and a fun gameplay loop. The bosses are quite difficult to understand how you're supposed to defeat them, and every single enemy has its own way of tackling it. And each enemy in the game gets slightly harder as you progress, as they change color and do new techniques. The game isn't that long, but like I say, it is difficult. The main story beat of the game is that you start as a warrior, and as you defeat a dragon, you then get cursed and turned into a dragon yourself. As you defeat more bosses in the game, every time you defeat a boss, you get changed into a different type of animal, which has a different ability and a different way of battling, and it keeps the game fresh even though you're doing the same thing over and over again. It's still very much a very addictive gameplay loop, and I highly recommend this if you're into a bit more of a challenge. And also, yeah, the visuals and audio are just amazing. Before we get onto our must-play games, here's a few titles that are a bit more well-known but are still indie games. So you may have heard of some of these, but I highly recommend playing them if you have not seen them yet. First on the list is Fears to Fathom. This is a episodic horror story, loosely based around real-life stories that people have submitted. It has a very creepypasta sort of style to its gameplay loops. If you like your short, creepy horror games, this is very much for you. The game mechanics are really quite simple. It really puts you on edge, and I think your gameplay style actually really does help. I don't know if I've got a favorite for any of the episodes, but you can play them out of order. I guarantee you will get jump scared a few times on each one. Next on the list is another horror game called Soma. You may have heard of this. Think Subnautica if it was more of a Resident Evil style game. You're on the bottom of the ocean and you've just got to try and survive while unlocking different story beats of what's happened to you and the world. This game has a very interesting narrative about self and what it is to be human. The game starts off with a questionnaire. I suggest you answer it truthfully, and then it will ask you again at the end of the game, and it really does highlight how a game can change your opinion on things. The game is very creepy. There is a lot of like monsters and things. It feels very much like Amnesia a lot of the time, but I think mostly just for the story beats. I really like this game, and I wish there was more games that played out like this. Moving on from horror is something a bit more arcadey, is Vampire Survivors. Again, a bit like Observation Duty, this style of top-down survival game has become its own genre in recent years, and they're all based on this game, so this is the original. Vampire Survivors is a bullet hell survival game. Even though it doesn't look like much, I guarantee you, if you start playing this, you will get hooked on it. Me and my friends, we all played this for the space of about 2 months, religiously every evening together. And when I say together, I don't mean the new co-op mode. I mean we all played it separately to see how many points we could get and how far we could get. The game's gameplay loop is fun just because of the randomized weapon system. It's very much a roguelike game. You'll get new weapons and you'll unlock new features and characters which will make you want to play more games. As soon as you'll play the game for a good like 20 minutes to half an hour, and then at that point death turns up and it becomes a hurdle of how can I survive past that point, and it is possible. Yeah, it's a lot of fun just trying to get there. It's more of a well-known game now, and it has spin-off lots of other games like it. Highly recommend this if you just want something fun to play every evening, just constantly. Right, time for our top 4 games that I've encouraged that everyone must play, at least in my opinion, if you like these genres. The first game is called Last Stop. Now this game is not very well known, and it's one of the Annapurna games, and I love anything that Annapurna makes because I love my story-based games. I don't think there's many games like it. It mostly is a walking simulator, but don't let that put you off it. It captures very much what it's like to live in the UK, while also telling very out there stories. The story revolves around 3 different characters and their actions throughout the day, and minor spoiler in the fact that they will all tie in at the end. So you'll be playing them thinking, how the hell are these all connected? But eventually it will get there. Simply down to the aesthetic and the acting and just the choices you get to make. We had so much fun playing this on stream. It's a game that I think everyone who watched me live stream it really enjoyed this game. Highly recommend it if you're into your narrative games. It's really out there, you will not be expecting it. And it goes on for a good while. I would say it's a good 8 hours of gameplay. And oh my god, Molly is the best character. Next on the list is a roguelike platformer, which has a very steep learning curve. A bit like Vampire Survivors, it is one of the most addictive games I've ever played. It is called Dead Cells. In this game, you play as a fallen soldier who gets reanimated, hence the name Dead Cells, and is given random weapons and has to get to the end bosses and then fight them. It's a simple gameplay loop, but it is really addictive, especially when you don't know what weapons you're going to get, and every run tends to feel a bit different from the last. And with your random weapon choices, you have to come up with creative solutions for how you're going to get to each section, especially when you're running low on health or up against some of the most difficult enemies in the game. After a while, you'll get to know the different level options and have a preferred level system that you want to go to. You will unlock lots of different things if you explore more of the game. The bosses in the game are incredibly difficult and you will die, that is the whole point, over and over again as you try and understand the boss's movement animations work, and you can get around them, or if you just get an overpowered weapon one time, luckily. The end boss in the game is incredibly difficult, not just to get to, but then also understand his gameplay loop to be able to defeat him. This is probably one of my most played indie games on the Switch, and I highly recommend anyone playing this. Again, this is in the must play section. You will be playing it for months on end. Everyone I've recommended this to has non-stop played it. So enjoy. Right, second from last is another horror game, but it's not a typical horror game. I would say it's more of a thriller. It's called Darkwood. This is a top-down horror game. What makes this game really scary is mostly the audio design, and you combine that with the gameplay loop of a bit like Minecraft, where you scavenge during the day and at night you have to board yourself up inside of a room somewhere with special lights and special fog to protect you from the monsters outside. And they will try and break in. And if they do break in, you then have to try and figure out how to deal with that problem before morning. And again, you will die a lot. And the game is procedurally generated, well, mostly. You will never have the same playthrough every time. And the game is very difficult. It is unforgiving. And even the developers say this is not a simple game. But you will absolutely love this if you're into your horror games or like being on edge. If you play this alone in the dark with headphones, I guarantee you're going to have a good time. The game is quite difficult, and you progress as you find more encampments until you find a way back to your apartment. But then, depending on how your gameplay went, it's very interesting how the story plays out, and there are multiple different endings. And as you explore the world, you'll meet other characters who will flesh out what has happened to this world and what's happened to you as well. A bit like Soma, I really like the story beats of the game, where the world has changed and that in turn has changed you, and it's whether or not you adapt to the change or whether or not you don't accept what's going on. But highly recommend this. This is must play. I've played it several times, and I've even made some challenge modes and played on hard and things. And finally on the list is Not for Broadcast. Again, this is more of an FMV style game, but it is also a bit like Five Nights at Freddy, where you have a control panel of a TV station that you're supposed to run. You get thrust into it on first day with no experience of how you're supposed to do it, which ties into the gameplay loop perfectly. And you have real acted scenes where you've got to make sure the narrative follows what the station wants. And as the game goes on, you are given the option of, do you want to follow what the narrative is telling you to do, or whether you thrust your own morals into what you should be showing on screen to tell the nation. The game can be quite hard, and there are multiple endings, and depending on how you play each day, it will affect what happens in the story outside of your shift. The story is told just via text and simple camera pans across different scenes, but that doesn't stop it from being really entertaining and hilarious in some cases, because some of the things that happen in the different TV segments and shows and news articles are hilarious. And half of the game is just you're trying to manage what's going on in the TV studio while also wanting to just watch the chaos unfold. And sometimes you just can't do that. This game is not like a normal game again, but oh my God, so much fun. And everyone on stream loved it too. And there are some music things in this game which are just, again, hilarious. The actors in this game, some of them ham it up, some of them play it very straight, but either way, it's just hilarious. If you just go with it, it's so funny. At first, we didn't like the main news reporter, and then he grew on us, and then we couldn't get enough of him. And you can tell the actors are just having so much fun with this game. Highly recommend. However, the DLC, I did not enjoy. There's a DLC about a sort of night at a haunted place, and I was hoping there would be like actual ghost things, but it doesn't really play out the way I was hoping. And so that kind of put me off playing more of the DLCs because the reviews aren't as good as the main game. But the main game is absolutely fantastic. So if you like your narrative-based story things and also some really chaotic Five Nights at Freddy's style control panel style gaming, this is the game for you. There is a lot of difficulty modes and unlockables and challenge modes that you can play as well. And that's our list. Hopefully there's some games you didn't know about. Do you have a favorite indie title which you consider a must-play game? I'm always on the lookout for new indie titles. So if you do have something, please let me know in the comments down below. And join us as we discover new titles every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. UK time on Twitch. Please like and subscribe for more indie playthroughs. And if this video goes well, I might have some more top 10 lists of different genres or just more games in the future. But until then, I'll see you next time. Bye, gang.